You'll want to.
Because I keep this book in my cube at work, and that's a longer story than I have time to tell today. You can ponder that while I'm reading it. And so today, in the theme of grossology, I'm reading Walter the Farting Dog. Any of you ever read this book? Ever heard of it? Well, it's a great book. I've had it at my desk for over a year. You can continue. This is for everyone who's ever felt misjudged or misunderstood. Has anybody ever felt like that? I have. Yeah? Mostly adults. I don't know what that is. All right, Walter the Farting Dog. Betty and Billy brought Walter home from the dog pound. Nobody wanted him, said Billy. But we love him, said Betty. Well, he smells awful, said the mother. I think you'd better give him a bath. So here's a picture of Walter as they've taken him home from the pound. See that? Pretty cool. Walter's kind of an ugly dog. Mother walked in and said, he still smells awful. And that's when they got the first clue, the telltale bubbles in the water. Has anybody ever had anything like that? I think I have too. He's probably just a little nervous, said Mother hopefully. His stomach must be upset. But Walter's stomach wasn't upset. Walter's stomach was fine. He felt perfectly normal. He just farted a lot. There's Walter in the back. Like that? That's what they're trying to clean him up. He did it when he bathed. He did it when he played with Betty and Billy. He did it when he walked around the house. He did it in the dining room. He did it in the kitchen. He did it in his sleep. And here's a little picture of Walter where he can fart anywhere. That dog farts morning, noon, and night, said Father. You can't help it, Daddy, said Betty and Billy. They didn't mind Walter's fart. So what if he farts, Billy said to Betty when they were alone in their room with Walter. Betty agreed. Walter agreed too. He sat there looking innocently around, farting. Take him to the vet, said Father. Farting, said the vet, or rectal flatulence, as we say in the medical profession, and prescribed a change in diet. So here's the vets figuring out what's up with Walter. They gave Walter every kind of dog food. He farted. He tried on cat food. They gave him hot dogs, hamburgers, lettuce and tomato sandwiches. They gave him fried food. They gave him rabbit food. They made him a vegetarian. No matter what that dog eats, he turns it into farts for it, Father. And I can tell you from experience, feeding dogs, hot dogs, hamburgers, not a good plan. Walter got home from everybody else's farts. Walter got the blame for everybody else's farts, too. If Uncle Irv let one slip, he just went and stood near Walter. And all he had to say was, Walter, and everybody would look at poor Walter. So Walter gets the blame for everything. Kind of like me at work, you know? Kind of happens. He has to go back to the pound, said Father. No, Daddy, please, begged Betty and Billy. Don't send Walter away. He goes tomorrow, said Father. They pleaded. Walter farted. It was all over. That night, Betty and Billy cried in their beds, and Walter looked at them unhappily. Oh, Walter, said Betty, you've got to stop farting, because Father is going to send you back to the pound tomorrow, said Billy. And Walter's getting kind of sad. He's figuring it out. Walter knew how serious the situation was. He'd never see Betty and Billy again. He resolved to hold in his farts forever. When Betty and Billy fell asleep, he walked down to the kitchen to see if there was anything around to eat. He managed to open the cupboard door with his nose and found the 25-pound bag of low-farting dog biscuits the vet had prescribed for him, which had made him fart even more. Even though he knew they made him fart more, he couldn't resist. He ate the entire bag. Very tasty, said Walter to himself. A fart-free biscuit dog food. And then he went and lay down on the sofa. A gigantic gas bubble began to build inside him. Sounds like me when I'm watching TV. This is going to be trouble, he said to himself nervously. He was afraid of what might happen if he let it go. He thought maybe the house would explode, so he kept it in. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was torture. But he had resolved never to fart again. His future depended on it. As he lay there, with his tail rammed tightly between his legs, he heard a noise at the window. There's the cat and the dog. He's just doing his best. He's doing his best to hold it in. He watched it open slowly. A pair of burglars came through. They dropped silently into the kitchen. "Watch out for the dog," said one of the burglars. "He won't bite," said the other. "He's a wimp." Walter might have bitten them, except he was so filled with gas he couldn't move. They tied a rag around his snout so he couldn't fart. "Okay," whispered the first burglar. "Let's clear the place out." They took everything they could get their hands on. Walter wanted to stop them, but he was having unbearable gas pains. He rolled on his back, and he waved his paws in the air. He gnashed his teeth. "We've got it all," said the second burglar. "Let's go." That's when Walter let it fly. It was the worst fart of his life. It made a tremendous noise and shot him across the room. A hideous cloud filled the air. The burglars clutched their throats, unable to breathe. With tears in their eyes, they raced for the window. They tried to grab their bag with all the valuables in it, but their arms were too weak. "Let's get out of here." Here's the part. Walter shot himself across the room. They jumped out the window and ran up the block, choking him and gasping for air. Still blinded by Walter's attack, they stepped into the headlights of an approaching police car. "Hold it right there," said the policeman. Looks like they're in for it now. When the father and mother came down in the morning, they found the window open, and they saw the bag with their valuables in it. And Walter was sitting beside him. He still had the rag tied around his snout. You'd have to say he looked heroic. "He saved the silverware," cried Mother. "He saved the VCR," cried Father. "Good dog, Walter. You're our dog, even if you do fart all the time." And so the family learned to live with Walter, the hero dog. And that's the end of our tale. Did anybody resemble that story?
Yeah.
No?
The part where the burglars almost fell over.
That was a good part.
I like the part when they went out of the house.
I like the part when he shot across the room like a rocket.
Yeah, me too.
Doesn't like it.
Mom.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to look at the book? Oh, there you go, buddy. Have a look. Pass it around. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, John. I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was a great reading.
Well, it's a book I read often and enjoy.
We have some door prizes, so if everybody will get your raffle ticket.
Jake.